All right. So today is Thursday, October 13th at 5:10 Mountain Standard Time. And we are commencing our seventh meeting as a team, Team E. We have a few things on the agenda today. Jason will be teaching Java collections, and Gabe will be teaching MVC. Um, Also, we want to be talking. We want to start working on the burn down list, sequence diagrams, and also take a look at our wireframes for our app. So, I guess we can go ahead and start with the instruction.
I'll
Did you
go
guys?
start with this first.
All right, sounds good. So, Jason, go ahead. Take
Okay.
the wheel.
Let me share my screen if I can figure out where my Hangouts window went. I always lose my Hangouts window. Here we go. Share screen. You guys see me?
Yes.
Can you see my PowerPoint? My awesome PowerPoint.
Oh yeah, that looks good.
So, okay. So I'm going to talk about Java collections, or when you put it into Google, it returns back the Java collections framework. In this class, we are specifically using the classes map, list, set, and tree. And there are several different iterations of each. So I'll just talk about a couple. Basically, the Java collection framework is a set of classes and interfaces built in to Java. They do not need to be declared or imported. You just type the word and it knows what you mean. And they cover collections, and a collection is a group of objects that have a common type. Collections are used to store, retrieve, manipulate, and communicate aggregate data. So they represent data, and that data is then organized into a list, a set, a map, or a tree. Those kind of four things. But I just listed some things that you can put into some sort of program, a poker hand, if you're programming a game for poker. That is a list, a folder that contains files, or a mailbox that contains email. That is a collection. And a phone directory that maps names to phone numbers, and that is the map class. So I'll kind of talk about each of those, but why do we use collections? And I kind of was looking at some of the sample code and learning about what they are and why to use them. I kind of came up with a couple of different reasons, and one of them, it reduces programming effort because they are reusable and they can be stored as an object and referred to constantly. It increases your program speed because a list can be built and referred to or referenced again and again. It can be resorted. You can look for particular instances of an object. You can look at a key or a reference to that object, or you can look to see if an object is there or isn't there. There's lots of different things you can do with collections. One of the things that I've been working on with collection is JSON and URL connection, which I'll kind of show you because it allows interoperability between different APIs. So I kind of was playing with that today, and I'll show it to you. And it allows for software reuse because you can make little snippets and store them in files and paste them into your code later on. So it's kind of just an easier, quick way to go through grouping of data. arrays and lists and that kind of thing. So when I said that they are interfaces, these are built in to Java. You don't need to declare them or import them. And the first one is a collection, and you can see down here there are that did not work. A collection is a method that tells you how many objects are in a collection is a method that tells you how many particular objects are in the type of collection. So you can query that collection for the size. You can find out if it's empty. Imagine an array, let's say. How big is that array? Does it have any content? Is it null? You can look for a particular value in that array, and you can also add and remove things from that array. This code below, which is kind of italicized, can you guys see that okay? It says string joined equals blah, blah, blah. I just pasted that out of some sample code. But that searches through a collection of objects, of a particular type of object, and converts each of those objects into a string. And some of the stuff I was playing with was putting colors of a rainbow into an array, and then searching that array for the color red, and then printing that out on the screen as a string. So that's basically what the collection class is. The set is an interface, and it's an unordered list of objects. It doesn't have to be in any particular order. There's no size limit. These hash set, tree set, linked hash set are just different ways of storing the data. And when you ever hear the word tree, that means it's a organized in ascending order. So it's a set of objects that are in an ascending order. A hash set is in random order. So when you print that out or write that into a database, there's no particular order if you're using a hash set. But a tree set, either numerical order or alphabetical order, depending on the type of object. Linked hash set, I'm not quite sure of, but it's another type. So the example code I have there searches for a collection of objects and gets rid of the duplicates. That's another thing about a set. It cannot contain duplicates. So when you run this code, it looks through your list of objects and gets rid of the duplicate objects. And that is, by doing so, you are using the set interface. Yeah, I guess that's it. These are out of order, so I'm going to go to this one next. There's a list interface, which extends a collection and stores elements in a list. This can contain duplicate elements. And the reason why you'd want it to contain duplicates would be if you are storing names or numerical values. You want those types of duplicates to be in there. You can see down below, we've created an array list with 3 different names. And then that array list can be printed out as strings in any order. There is no order to them. And if we were doing an array list, an array tree list, it would print those out in alphabetical order. So opposite of the way those are written. The map interface is kind of interesting because it maps keys to values. The key is an object you use to look up a value later. So that key can be a number. It can be, usually is a number. And you can reference that number, and then it'll call the value that that number represents. That value can be anything. It can be an object or a graphic. It could be a word. It could be a letter. It could be a dollar amount. It can be anything. But it's stored in this map, or it's stored and called through the map interface. That code kind of goes off the screen. but it's a mapping. So you, when you are not declaring or not defining single objects, you're mapping those to another value. She's 8. These names, I don't know where they got them. This 31. This other person's 12, and the last person's 14. And so those can be stored and referenced through the map interface. So we're wondering where these are used, and this just calls or talks about trees. And again, a tree set, tree map, that's the same thing as a set or a map, but it stores them in ascending order. So, am I still there? Did I lose you guys?
No, we're still here.
No,
we're all
still
muted.
here.
Holy cow! This whole
We're
thing.
just all muted.
Okay, good. So one of the things I've been playing with was JSON. And I know that you can write your own XML file, but I kind of wanted to pull some JSON from the internet, and so that's kind of what I did. So I just grabbed some weather information from Weather Underground, and I am writing that through JSON, and it's storing these values as a map. Where is it? Is it this one? No, it's this one. Okay. Here we go. See the word map, and there's set, and there's tree map. So these are all things that will pull back this data from this website and organize it in different formats. Map, set, tree map. So I wonder if this will run. It was running for me earlier. Okay, so this pulls back information about the web server. So you can see, here's the tree map. It's in alphabetical order. Can you see that? Is that too small?
I can see it.
Okay, so you can see that the data that it's pulling back, it's just values that your web server's pulling. You can see the kind of web server that it is, whether it's, this is an Nginx web server. Access controller, origin, age and value. These are just numbers that it's pulling back. So you see they're here in order. If you look at the map and set, so this is just the data that it pulls back out of order, probably first in, first out. Same data, but stored completely differently. So in a nutshell, that's what Java Collection Framework is all about. And I really haven't seen in my code where I'm going to be using this except in sandbox mode. I'm not quite sure of the where we're going to really be using this. I'm not sure.
I think the word you're looking for is value.
Yeah, right.
Well, the value I see is, like you said, there's pre-built maps and lists that you don't have to code all that for you because it's already built into the coding for Java.
Sure.
I think that's where the value of Java collections come in.
Okay.
And I don't
You just tell
dispute
you have a
that.
map.
I'm just trying to
There's all
figure
that
out,
extra stuff.
based on what we're doing, how there's a value to it for us.
For us, we'll be mapping like our username or the names to their skill sets. I think we'll probably do it more for the database. Will do it for us, but the Java could do it as well. It sounds like.
Right. That's why why would we use this over that? So there's so many options. So
I'm not really sure. Some of this might be older technology, or there's an easier way to do it, or I'm not sure. Like Hibernate, nobody's doing Hibernate anymore. This is the one that pulls the weather back. It reads the JSON file, converts it, and this is stored in a list. So, I don't know. I don't know.
well, what's stored in a list is actually okay. So from that, he's right. From the database from a database perspective, all of that stuff. If you replace weather with name, And
Yeah.
here with a name, then you've got the name and the person.
Kind of have a reason because it. Yeah. Right. So you'd read the database and you'd store it as an object in Java.
Right, but that same thing can be done a different way. It's just how do you want to do it?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, that's me.
I'm good. I don't have any questions right now about that. I
Okay.
can't think of a question to ask.
No.
Yeah, me either. Good for now too.
It took quite a bit to get this to work. It took me a long time of trying different things, but that's
Other
what I've
than
done the last 2 days.
other than copying those two code snippets into the presentation folder for your presentation under Java, then
Mhm.
or this.
Yeah. Right.
Other than that, so we can all play with it. I don't have any questions.
Okay.
Nice job, man.
Great.
Thank you.
All right. Gabe, are you ready to go?
My turn. Yes.
Sweet.
All right. I'm going to assume you can all see that.
Yes.
Okay. So mine was MVC, Model View Control. So this is an overview of the Model View Control. A Model View Control it's a pattern. It's a pattern of how the user interacts with the database. And I found a lot of different graphics that depict this. And so I used a lot of different graphics because a lot of people have a lot of different ideas on how this works, on representing how it works. When we get to the end, I'll show the one that I feel pretty much gives the best representation. And I got to tell you, from a database perspective, I guess you would call it the model, because the model is the database. It's where the objects are stored. The view is what the user sees, and the controller is what helps the view and the model work together to get what the user wants out of the database. But from a user perspective, it should be VCM, view, control, model, because the user uses the view, which then uses a controller, which then accesses the model. So why we talk about model, then view, then controller, it's kind of a little out of order for my taste, but whatever. So it's a pattern. It defines how the user sees what they see, and it defines the communication with each thing and defines its role. So the user uses the controller, which manipulates the model, which updates the view, and the user sees what the model updates to the view. In this scenario. Now, as we saw in the previous scenario, the user from the view saw the controller, which talked to the model, which talked back to control, which talked to user. And in my opinion, that's actually more accurate because the controller is still in between the view. So in this scenario right here, the controller is being left out of the update because the model does not send something directly back to the view. The model is responsible for the data itself. It sits there and does nothing until it's acted upon, and it only responds to requests from the controller to either update itself or output something. And this one is much more accurate in my opinion. As the view, the user has an action, the controller sends an update to the model notifies the controller, which then updates the view. And to me, that's really how the system works. So the model is basically data specific. It is updated by the controller and then notifies the controller when a change to the data is made. The view is what is seen by the operator. It's the graphical representation of the working in itself. And it uses JSP, ASP, PHP, AJAX. All these different technologies are how the controller outputs what the user sees. And the view is only triggered by the user's input and a request through the controller from the database. This is actually very accurate in my opinion. The view is basically what the user sees. So the user interacts with the database. Oh, wait a minute, it's not very accurate because there's a strong pointer to the model, but again, this weak pointer to the controller, which then sticks back. The view has nothing to do with the model itself. It only receives information back. So again, another representation that I didn't really agree with, but was there. The controller is responsible for responding to the user's input. It is what does all of the work. It's the workhorse. The model sits there, but the controller, it's got double duty. It talks to the model and receives instruction from the model to give back to the view, or to the client. It receives input, validates the input, and then performs an operation on the model. It's the intermediary between one or more of the application's views or the model itself. It's the only thing that updates the model, and it is notified by the model when data is changed. And most importantly, it's affected by the user's actions in the view. And that is the last one. This is the most accurate in my opinion because it lists the end user itself. And the only thing it's missing is an arrow back to the end user, and I'm not really sure if that's just assumed, but the end user connecting to the view, basically to your keyboard, mouse, and your monitor, sends an action through what's displayed on the view to the controller. The controller notifies the model of the action. The model updates the controller, which then updates the view. And the only piece it's missing is the re-interaction between the end user and the view of an arrow pointing back to the end user. And again, I think that may just simply be assumed because the view does not physically interact with the end user. The end user actually is only looking at the view. So that may be why they've got the arrow only pointing one way. And that's an overview of model view. Model has two parts, though, that I know of. It has the database itself, but the portion that connects to the database itself. So the controller does connect to the database, but it goes through a separate section that is actually the model in most programming, and that's the part that does the manipulation of the data into the model or into the database. You'll have most of your MySQL or Oracle interaction will be in a separate view from the controller. It's not actually inside the controller. It would go into the model view, but that model view has a second tier that's actually connecting to the database through the model view, or through the model section itself. Any questions?
Yeah.
No, but it's all coming back to me.
What's your question?
So I have a question. So I'm looking at this. I understand what you're saying, how the MVC works, but I'm trying to visualize how does it apply to our program itself.
Well,
what I'm getting
your
so far,
screen, and let me pull up my pencil here. See if I can put that over there. You can see that? Your screen in this point right here is your view.
Okay.
That is what you see, and that is the view itself. Behind this is the calculations part. So if I click on category list, right, and I get a drop-down window from the category list, and I choose a menu item, and I hit go, then the controller is given that menu item's values. The controller takes those values, connects to the model, and passes those values to the model. So in this case, let's say the menu item is a driver, right? I want a list of all drivers for vehicle drivers. Let's call it vehicle drivers because you can have different drivers. We're going to define it as a vehicle driver in our skills list. So you choose, I want to see a vehicle driver. Click. The controller is given that information from the view, from the user. I want to see a vehicle driver. Here's my input. The controller takes that input, packages it up, goes to the model, and says, the view wants to see a driver. They want to see this package right here, which is a driver. The model then takes that information, searches itself, says, okay, here are all the drivers, and it sends that information back to the controller. The controller then says, hey, I have all this information for you, the view. Here is the information. And then the view, and it orders that information. The view then takes that information and displays how the controller tells it to on the screen for the user to re-interact with. Is that
Okay, that
a
makes
little more clear?
Yeah, no. That's kind of how I thought it worked, but that definitely cleared it up. So I understand how it all works now. And
all calculations are done in the control. The model simply takes the information done by the calculations and applies it to the database or returns a value from the database. And in fact, it's actually both. It applies it to the database, and at all times it sends a value back, I'm good, or here's your requested information. To which the controller then tells the view, the database said it's good, or the database says, here's what you want to see.
okay, so I'm saying in our case, our controller would essentially be the phone or a web server or something like that. And then the model's that database.
Let me see if yeah, okay, so I do have some.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
So right here, we choose this menu item. The controller would then take that information, send it to the model, tell the model, give me all of this menu item's values. The model sends back to the controller what the values are, and the controller outputs them in nice, neat order on the view.
Yes.
It passes that information to the view, and then the view orders it in the manner that we've told it to. Now, it's very important that no words, this is some, Jason, I found out the hard way in our programming in Java, no text statements, if you will, quotations or anything like that, are applied in the controller or in the model. That's all got to be applied to the view.
And that's why I said it's coming back to me, because I kept getting dinged for putting display information, words, text in the controller, in the model. It's so tempting because, oh, I have this data, now I'm just going to throw it out there.
You have to tell it where to go, and you tell it go all the way back to the view.
And when you're doing true object-oriented, when you have a package with, you have to have a view class, and nothing else can be in the view. You can't tell the view to go look in the database. That's all done through these different classes. So yeah.
And that's the only way it's actually object, because through Jason's example earlier, we had these little packages. Those packages are contained in the controller, and there's also packages contained in the model. So, for instance, I had a program I wrote once that I wanted to update a database and add a picture to the database. So the controller would send the information for that picture, the name, the location, and what else? It sent something else. It sent information about the photo, basically.
Underwear at the top.
Oh, the keys that I had keyed in on, like in this case, it was simply a date and a name. So it would send a date, a name, and the address of the photo to the model. The model would take that information, order itself, apply obviously a key that's outside of the controller's need to know, and then put that information in a line item on the database, and then send back a statement, I'm good. Well, I had another program that another portion of the program that I wanted to be able to add a photo into the database through a different method. Well, that add photo piece, that piece of code, was the same code I used to add the photo in both different methods. So, for example, I had create a new file. Well, I used this code, this model code, and this controller code to create a new file. If I wanted to edit a file, it was the exact same controller and model information. It was just a different output. So when I clicked on, I wanted to update or add something to this photo statements, what would happen is that the same information was passed through the controller as was passed for a new one, the same information for a new photo was passed through the controller for an updated photo. And the model used the same exact object, the same exact function to update no, it didn't use an update versus a new. It did use a new. That was the difference. So my controller had the same function, but my object in the two objects in the model were different. One was a new and one was an update. Okay, but I had less code to have to write because I could reuse that controller and didn't have to go rewrite all of that script to go out and edit something because it was the exact same thing. It was passing the exact same information. There was just a key, and I keyed it so that it was either new because it came from a certain page. It was either new information or update information, and that would actually be the same thing we would do in this for the administrator. If the administrator in our program were updating information, it would use the same controller to update as it would to new. You just pass a key along with that that says this is new information or this is updated information. And when it got to the model, it would choose the correct output from the model. So you had a couple extra lines of code in your controller, but everything else was the same. It was an if statement. If this key is this, then do this. If the key is that, then do that in the model. So if the key is a new one, go to this portion of the model. If the key is an edit, you go to this portion of the model. It's for an update. So an extra line of code in your controller made 40 or 50 less lines of code in your overall program. Any more questions?
I think
No.
I'm good for now.
All right. Checkbox complete.
Check box.
I know MVC.
At least
Yeah,
I
but you're right.
understand it now.
It's VCM. You're
From the user's standpoint, it is.
Yeah.
The view, then the controller, then the model. Why we chose MVC, I have no idea, other than it rolls off the tongue much easier, by the way. MVC
Yeah.
is completely easier to say than VCM. VCM, what's a VCM? But, if they'd have said it VCM to begin with, then nobody would really know the difference. My problem with MVC is I think of them in linear order. The model, the view, and the controller. But the view goes to the controller, which then talks to the model, which then talks to the controller, which then talks to the view. So either way, MVC is wrong because it should either be MCV or VCM. We've taken something out of order. But I digress.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because essentially, the view will never
makes
talk
sense to me.
to the model then.
No, it won't. It has to have a
Because
go-between.
there always has that intermediary, something to tell that model or the database what to do.
Yes. They are completely separated by the controller. And if you ever do have something that connects direct to the view from the model, I think that's a total boo-boo error no-no. That'll give you, when you're doing your testing, that'll come back with an error almost every time. I may be wrong. I will say that I may be wrong because I can't remember physically doing it, but from everything I remember, it had to go back through the controller. There was no excuse for bringing it into the model straight to the view.
And that makes sense to me. I would think it
Because-
all would want to go through the control.
Well, you're bypassing the controller.
Right.
The whole point of having a controller is to control. That's why it's called controller. And if your view and model are connecting together, then they bypass the whole point of the controller to begin with.
Yeah. Whoever comes up with these, acronyms, it doesn't seem like they. I don't know.
They're not helpful sometimes.
No.
Yeah. No kidding. All right. So, do you guys want to go ahead and talk about the wireframes, or
Actually, I showed you my wireframes in my presentation. Those are the ones I came up with. That first page I showed you with the category list skills. I'll put it back on screen. This one. This one is what I came up with. I guess I could output a PNG and make it easier to view. Save as, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of shared my screen as well, and that has what I currently have for that add user for the wireframe. Even though I realized I forgot to add the submit button to it.
Sorry, I'm still outputting my PNG. Oh, it saved it as an EP. Because I wasn't paying attention. That's why. I didn't change the EP to PNG. Oh no, you got to do an export. You can't save as. Yeah, export as PNG. There it is.
Okay.
Export page as PNG. That's what I messed up. All right, is that easier to see? It's all on the screen. So mine was basic. I went with the basic that I already had in the basic background, because I figured we'd come up with a common to go through it all, and we were all going to have different ideas of what the commonality was. And much like Jason said, he liked the black background much better than the gray one, and I agree. I did like that much better, by the way. So my idea simply was a two-stage up here at the top. If you want to do a category list, if you're in this view to begin with and click skills list, everything pops up. The entire skills list pops up. But by clicking on category list and clicking a category out of that menu item, you filter automatically the skills list. It dynamically filters the skills list so that when you click on the skills list, you only have a limited number of selections versus several hundred selections. And that's based on whatever we give it, whatever assignments we give it. Or, which was the big or statement here, you can search by a keyword or key letters. More importantly, just key letters. So if you type in FIR, you'll get first aid or fire rescue, both of which would contain an FIR. And the keyword, I believe we should make it something very dynamic where it takes a keyword from anywhere in the name. So in this case, if we were searching this menu item and we put it in UI, then we would get menu item as a return, because the in UI is part of menu item. I didn't really do a return list, although I didn't really think I had to, because the one I had from the previous drawing looked pretty good. I don't see any reason in changing that. The only thing that would change across the bottom would be the buttons. And I don't really think these buttons ought to change, because back really shouldn't, that should be more like exit. Change back to exit. Menu for the administrator, but not for the user, and then search again simply for the user. And that would be consistent with our sequence diagram. Was that the one we did?
state?
This right here would be consistent with our sequence diagram, except back would be named exit.
Right.
And that exit. This would be consistent with our sequence diagram, if I can find that. Does anybody have that still?
It's in the drive.
It is in the drive, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it under? Where's it at?
It's
State diagram, right? Yeah, state diagram.
Yeah.
So in the state, oh, hang on. Everybody see that?
Yes.
So in the state diagram, you've got results, right? As a, there is one piece that's missing from this if we do the menu option. See, this is why wireframes are so good. So the results goes back to a new query. Well, no, it's not. There's a choice, though. If you're an administrator, it has to do a choice here that either goes back into a search, straight into the search from new query if it's an administrator, or goes and authenticates that it's a user and puts them into the administrator menu. So I don't know how we would draw that out, because it goes back at this point right here. It makes it makes a decision right there. It's already drawn. That's right.
Yeah. On your wireframe, you have that when you add that menu button, that takes them back either to the admin menu or the new search is our search side.
Well, the menu button takes you here, and if you're an administrator, then it then takes you. It authenticates that you're an administrator, takes you to the administrator menu, right?
Right.
If you click the search, then there's got to be a statement right here at this point. If you're the administrator and click search, it takes you back to this point right here, but it automatically assumes that you want to go to the search and then takes you straight to the search. So this point right here has to have an authentication that goes straight to the search. And that's why I'm hanging up right there how internal reauthentication of user I think actually applies, though. For the end user, it still does the same thing. Search goes straight back to search. It authenticates that you're an end user, takes you straight back into search. So for the administrator themselves, this is the only point right here where it has to make a decision whether or not you want to go do a search as an administrator or whether you want to do an administrator menu because you chose menu. And that's why I'm saying this right here may be wrong in our graphic, but I'm not sure. Because in any way, at any point, it is still a decision. But that's consistent with this menu at the bottom. The search again, and then the menu, and an exit is consistent with the state diagram.
You tell.
You still talking to somebody?
So that's mine.
I'm not even going to show mine because mine is just stupid.
Show
I
it.
put it up in the drive. Okay, fine.
Yeah, mine's stupid too. I mean,
because I just had.
Oh, come on. There's nothing ever stupid. There's just something that you haven't fully vetted out yet.
I just have add user or edit user, excuse me, and I couldn't figure out how to do the black background. So whatever.
I couldn't figure out how to do anything but black as the background.
Yeah, this is really, and there's no arrows. I couldn't find any arrows other than the back arrow, but.
I'm not. Hang on, let me look.
I wanted to be able to use this as a list to select a skill.
Oh, so the back arrow, you just turn it the other direction and you turn it upside down.
Well,
Yeah,
what I meant was, well, you know how there's the arrows where you can add a single thing from a list over, or you can select.
Oh, you're talking about the three little arrow things. Yes, I know what you're talking about.
That's kind of what I envisioned here. That's why I just haven't had it removed. So, edit user. You've got a picture of the user in the corner, first name, last name, phone number, and then their list of skills. And you have a save and a back, or cancel in this case. But I couldn't figure out how to do the black background. But
how did I do that?
mine was easy. Edit user. That was it.
Right here.
Using the iOS.
Yeah.
Okay, we have the Android background, so
It might be why, just because I've got an iPhone.
It's on my screen right now. If you look at my screen, right here.
Oh, wrong one.
Right here.
Okay, see, so that's under.
Pick her background.
Okay.
See?
What does it say? Poker?
Picker.
Picker. All right. So you
See?
go over here and type picker. Boom.
And then you got to send it to the back. So you adjust it to the top, so your size, and then you got to send it to the back.
Got it. Okay.
I don't know that that's exactly it. I may have used a different one.
There is
But I know-
themes you can do as well too, but
Oh, you know, it may have been a tab bar. Oh, no. That's not it.
Hey.
I think maybe once the phone comes up, it's automatically black. Like when you pick
Maybe.
when you pick the Android phone.
yeah, the Androids are automatically black.
I may have put something over it. Where's the Android phone at?
I
It's
think
been
it's
forever
kind
since
of
I
in the
used it.
middle. It's up a little bit. Up. I think.
There.
Yeah, right there.
That's iPad. It's
Oh,
iOS.
it's up a little bit more then. It's above the.
And there.
Yep.
Oh, it's still white.
Yeah, the iOS came up as white on mine, and the Android is black.
Oh, you
by
know what? It's
default.
not. It is black.
That's why I didn't even think about that. I just grabbed a phone and just pulled it over and started programming.
And then you have to do something like that to make it white.
Yeah.
I like the black better, so that's good.
Okay, you could always just drop the new phone and then select all those and just drag it over at once to the new
I
phone.
mean, this isn't even connected. I could just move the phone out of there and pull it in.
You actually can connect them. You can, once you put them in, there's a way to do that. Let me see if I can. You select everything, and then I think you right click and lock. Yeah, or group right there. See, oh, you're. If you look at my screen, once you select everything that you want to be grouped together, you click group, and it turns it into a object, one solid object.
Nice.
And then you ungroup, and it turns it into individual frames again. So, for example, if I were to grab all of this, see how it's got the green lines around everything?
Mm-hmm.
Right click. Oh, why did it not? Where's my group? Oh.
Control G.
Yeah, but it didn't. I didn't select inside the group. Right there, group. Boom. Now I've got one solid piece.
Boom! Now it's a phone. Look at that. I like this better. I'm gonna save it. All right, I'm putting mine up there. I have to go in like 2 minutes, and I'm sorry. I just got family stuff going on tonight.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's all good, man.
You warned us last meeting that was going to be the case. So
What do you want me to work on for next meeting, or I can put stuff in the chat window and I can follow along or whatever?
Yeah, little assignments we'll have in the notes as well, the team meeting minutes.
obviously we'll send some kind of email out or something like that.
Right.
Right. Okay. Well, let me copy this up to the drive, and then I'm going to bail. Delete.
Mark, did you do yours from scratch?
Yes.
It's good. That's a lot of
I know
information
that-
on there.
Yeah, man, you did good.
Yeah, for sure.
I figure that's the basic information we need to create an account. Right.
Right.
Name.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you know what? I should probably put middle initial in there.
I
I'll find a
wouldn't.
spot.
I
Well,
wouldn't.
You might have two John Smiths.
Oh, well, I wouldn't do a middle initial. I'd do three then, and leave the middle as blank possible.
I just got to find somewhere to squeeze it in.
Why does
Well, remember you're going to scroll because,
That's true.
and I say that because if you look at my skills list on my screen,
All right, see you guys.
I put the
All right,
keyboard
see you,
on.
man.
Right. You put
Remember
the
that
keyboard on it.
keyboard's you put the keyboard on there. If you drag that keyboard over, you're going to cover up everything under contact information anyway. So you're going to have to scroll.
That's true. So you got to remember the scroll information. And
Remember what I said the other day about stretching the phone out and making the menu really super long, even though, yeah, you got to grab the phone itself. I think you got to do that before you start, though. Let me see about adding a new page and see what that does.
yeah, because this phone doesn't seem to let me.
Phone. Oh, you know what? It looks like the phone maybe a
Fixed size.
yeah, sizing policy. I thought we stretched these out somehow when I did this last.
Are we uploading our wireframes to the drive, or?
I think we need to, but we need to create a folder that does say wireframes. Maybe
I'll
I
go ahead and
didn't.
create that folder.
Maybe we maybe we just place several phones on top of each other then. How do I make my canvas bigger? Resize canvas. Fit screen. That's probably what we did. We did this. You see that?
We just kind of layered them.
Yeah, I put several phones on top of each. I can't find that,
yeah,
that
that's
document.
cool.
Yeah, you just layer several phones, and then when you put your content in there, you just put like a, you know,
Oh, okay. Just kind of blacked it out.
blanked it out. And there you go. There's my.
That's
That's
nice.
what it would look like if it were a screen, you know,
Yeah.
something along those lines.
Okay.
Because you want to see all the content in the window, but you got to remember there's going to be a scroll bar. And so, to be honest, you didn't have to remember to put the scroll bar because that's going to take up real estate.
Yeah,
So
we'll have to add that too.
when you lay out stuff, you need to remember that that scroll bar will be there. Where's that at? I had one. And they've got things like the notification. Oh, I don't want that. That's not the right one.
Right. Like added the clock and stuff in
Right.
that bar at the top.
That at the top. You got to remember to add that, and that's always permanent. No, not that. And this is where you just start playing with stuff. Oh, here's what I was looking for. Boom, right there. So you add this to the top of the screen so you know that you're losing real estate there. There's a slide bar. So you know you're losing real estate there. Maybe there's a better slide bar.
I thought that was the only one.
I think there was a better one because I used it. Ah, scroll bar right there. So get rid of that. Here we go.
Oh, okay. You still like the Windows scroll bar, not the phone scroll bar.
Right, but it's kind of like a Windows scroll bar. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, mine on my screen kind of is, but what it helps me do is because it's white, it outlines what I don't have anymore.
Yeah.
Because no matter
blocks off that
what,
space so you can see it.
that space is gone as soon as I output as soon as the screen pops up, that space is automatically gone. So I account for that in my graphical representation. Anyway, I think that's how we did it. And of course, now this doesn't take up a lot of space because you will be able to actually scroll down to the bottom of that. But having the keyboard in there, keyboard does take up real estate, much like you saw on my other one over here on the skills list. It takes up real estate. And so I accounted for that when I placed everything on the screen.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes though, when you like click in the box, that's when the keyboard like pops up.
So, and to do you would do a PNG of without the keyboard in place, and then a
Mhm.
PNG with the keyboard in place, if you're overly worried about that.
Yeah.
So in mine, I didn't actually have anything down there. If I did, then I would have to do something where I showed both. This is what it looks like without the keyboard. When the keyboard pops up, this is what I lose.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I tried in my representation to account for the keyboard already, so that when it popped up, I didn't lose any of my functionality. Because at first I had a whole lot of space in between here. I had these centered up on the screen, and it looked great. I had it centered up on the screen. Everything looked great. No keyboard in the way. This was down. This was down. This was down. These were down here, you know? And then I had that thought, oh, when I turn the keyboard on, what
Mhm.
happens? Well, then this whole thing's going to shove up. Well, you can't see my hand moving. Ha! I'm pointing at the screen. Can't you see that? This
Yeah, I
whole
can see it just
thing,
fine.
this whole thing shoves up and it goes out of the way, which if that's what we want, because we're typing words and we get rid of this list right here, then by all means, we center it up, because as soon as that keyboard pops up, it's going to shove the screen up so that the keyboard is still visible for the search keys, or at least it should.
Hey guys, I'll be back in just a minute. All right.
All right. So on your wireframes there, did you include the keyboard for the horizontal view as well?
I didn't, because I couldn't find a good keyboard.
Okay.
And I didn't look like I really accounted for it here. The keyboards, as far as I know, mostly go right across like this.
Yeah, they cut off like the bottom half of the
Cut
screen.
off the bottom half
whatever.
on the larger ones. And this one, oh, you can stretch it out. No, you can't. I couldn't stretch this keyboard out.
Oh, okay.
See, it only gives me the opportunity to turn it sideways.
So you could turn it sideways, but you can't stretch it.
Right, it only allows me to turn sideways. And I couldn't find a larger keyboard, which is really insane. You would think they would have a tablet keyboard in here somewhere. I just can't find it. So I threw my hands up in the air and said, oh, well. Yeah, I don't see a tablet keyboard anywhere. I guess we could draw, throw the keyboard in there in a cheesy little window with like a dark action bar across the bottom that's, this is what the keyboard would take up. See, I did not account for the keyboard in that because I forgot it in the view. Well, I couldn't put it in the view, but you know what I mean.
Right.
So that should be up there. Something like that, because when the keyboard is applied, it's going to take up the entire bottom half of the screen. And I really hate it when I have to scroll up to hit a go button on my stuff.
Yes.
When a developer
it should be right there.
When a developer forgets that I need to hit a go button, that makes me frustrated. And I want an easy button because I got big, fat, meaty fingers, and it's a little bitty screen. No matter what size it is, it's still a little bitty screen.
Yeah.
It's bad enough the keys are so small. So that's all the things I thought about when I was doing that. And obviously this is wrong. But in this one right here, you can see I did account for it over here because I thought, oh, the keyboard. But I just couldn't find a larger keyboard.
Yeah, so on mine I can understand having my create button and the menu button under the keyboard, but that's
right.
also a lot of content I'm scrolling through, so.
Yeah, you're scrolling through a lot of content. And again, we're going to have a common theme. So across the bottom, you're going to find that on yours where it says menu and create account, obviously they'll be the same size. There's a little difference in the sizing.
Actually, I did that on purpose.
Did you? So
yeah,
you
I
wanted
wanted
the
the
easy
menu to be a
button.
little bit smaller, so the actual create account was a little bit bigger.
I don't think menu would be the thing to do. I think it would be return. Because presumably
okay,
you came
sense.
from the menu to begin with, right?
Right.
So it wouldn't be menu, it'd be return. And I think it would be the arrow like you saw in that other picture that I had.
Yeah, I think I'll just have to look. I didn't see it in the Android, so I'll have to go pull it from something else.
I don't know where I got that from. The one that I renamed to exit. And I'm sure it's just an icon. You can make your own icons right there.
Yep, that one.
Back.
That.
Because presumably you're going back to the main menu anyway, because you should not have gotten into a return or back, either one. Well, we need to start a burn down list, right?
Oh, we do.
So while we're waiting on Cody, I'm going to go grab a drink.
Okay.
While you're playing with that, I'm going to go grab a glass of water because I'm getting thirsty. I talked too much already.
I'll take a quick break as well. I'll be right back. I like that idea.
So take a 2-minute reprieve, and then when Cody comes back, while we play on our did I? How do I unshare? Am I unshared? Yes, I'm unshared. All right.
I'm back. Anybody still here?
Yeah, I'm here. I just took a reprieve to go grab a drink of water.
Oh.
And then I saw some chips, and they look good, so I went and grabbed some chips. And so I'm crunching on chips, and I keep my microphone muted.
Nice.
Say I'm at work, so I don't have the benefit of crunching on chips or anything.
That's a bummer.
It is so gratifying to be able to go grab a chip and go crunch, crunch, crunch.
Yeah.
Can always make it down to the
is.
break room.
We really don't have much of a break room here.
Oh, well, that stinks for you.
I mean, most IT department is field, so.
That's true. On our building, we've got a vending machine area, so. All right, so burn down list.
Burn it down.
Are we really? We are at a burn down list, right?
I think so, unless you have to do a sequence diagram before that.
Well, we already done a sequence diagram for this project.
Oh, we have?
Yeah, that was the one that I produced that day.
I thought that was the state. Is the state and the sequence the same?
Oh, we haven't done the sequence diagram. Dang it. Sequence diagram is the virtual coding. Oh, you're right. Nobody really did theirs because we all hate them.
At least we're consistent.
Yeah, at least.
No, I remember sitting down to do mine. There were so many different aspects to think about. I did that and I quit. Because mine has at least 3 different sequences inside the same sequence diagram. 2 of them are the same sequence, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
Because my drop-down menus on both of them do essentially the same thing. They just have a different return. Or let me rephrase that, have a different output to the view.
So essentially you can copy and paste it and just change a couple things.
Right. Instead of going to a new view, the category list simply updates the existing skills list. So essentially changes the view and is going to a quote new view, but it's just dynamically changing the skills list. And of course, search just does simply that.
Yeah.
It goes out, contacts the database, kicks back the information, comes back. And I thought it was way too simple when I drew it out because it was simply a line that came out and came back. And I thought there had to be more to it than that. Obviously, there's got to be more than that. But either way, even if it finds no data, it's still no return. It's still an output from a query. Anyway.
I'm just looking up burn down lists.
So
Refresher. So.
Well, burn down list is a module, a broken down module of a certain thing. So, for example, my particular piece of coding would have at least 3 different burn down items. Does that make sense? Because my category list is one burn down item, my skills list is another burn down item, and my search is another burn down item.
Okay.
Because the skills list is one item, but it can be broken down into smaller components. You don't want to do a big piece, you want to do small pieces.
All right.
So, and that's why the wireframes come in so handy, because you look at each individual piece on the wireframe and say, what is that and what do I need to have to do that? And then each piece becomes a burn down. Or each piece is a module that's added to the burn down list.
So a burn down list has to basically be made for each case.
Correct. Now, if you take Mark's, for example, he's got a very limited burn down list. His information is all input and it sends, correct?
Yeah,
So
pretty much.
All your input is just take the input, send it to the database, update the database. So you are essentially creating, now if you think about how it's created though, there are 2 or 3 modules created out of that. Whereas mine are 2 or 3 modules also, but they're kind of different. But that's where the universal modules come in. So for example, yours, you're taking all that information, the name, the address, phone number, skills list, et cetera, et cetera. You're compiling it into one simple JSON statement, right? The controller compiles it into one JSON statement, passes that to the model updates the database, which the model is the database, but the model updates the database and then returns to it, good job, got it done, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So your 3
Yeah.
different components are the view output for good job, got it done, the view input for this is where you put information in. So those would actually be individual modules, right? And then you've got the controller package, which bundles it all up and sends it to the model, and then the model package, which takes the model and updates the database. Those are 2 separate items on the burn down list also. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But they have
It
an
does.
order that they have to be done in. They have to be done in the view, then the controller, then the model, then back to the controller, and then back to the view. So technically you've got another one because you've got 2 controllers, right?
Controller sending and controller receiving, essentially.
Correct. So those are 2 separate objects. Now the controller receive really is kind of the universal one. If you think about it, the controller is going to receive everything. And it depends on what we want the controller to receive. Do you want the controller to receive a database updated statement, or do you want the controller to receive a database updated statement along with the information that it updated for verification? Right?
Yeah.
So when it goes back to the view, you either get a list that looks very similar to one you output or you input, just, no editable fields, just rehashes what you sent back to the database. It just replies back with, yep, that's what you put in. And then you have your same menu as at the bottom, but you would add one for edit. And you look at it, go, oh, I messed the name up. Look at that. Edit, go back in,
That
fix
makes
the
it
name,
have.
submit. And then otherwise you just go back to the menu button. At that point, you would have a menu button, the menu button, and go back to the main menu for the administrator.
Yeah, so essentially what I'm seeing there then is fill it out, send it. It returns back with a confirm or edit button at the bottom, essentially.
Mhm.
And then actually submit and then return again of account created or whatever.
Actually, no. I would go one less step and say that it is good and it's been created. There's no verification needed unless
Okay.
you see something wrong, and then you're simply at an edit at that point. So it's using the same
Edit just
edit.
returns back to screen,
So
essentially.
so instead of doing a verification of the database, yeah, you can save that, which would be kind of from a database point silly, right? You've already updated the database. You're going to tell it, yes, it's good. It's already told you, I've added this. You then turn around and go to you're simply an edit button. Unless you say it's wrong. If you say it's wrong, correct, then what function you're doing, edit. You're simply editing an existing database line. It just happens to be the one that's on the screen, right?
Now, can it be set up to edit without actually hitting the database? So you hit it, you hit your create user, then it just displays the text of the user information before it even sends it to the database.
Yeah, it can. That's a confirmation. True. You could do it that way.
And that gives you, and then at that point, either confirm, which sends it to the database, or edit, that sends you back to your editable boxes.
Right. And that would be local storage. Is that one of the things we got to do, local storage? You're right. And that's the sequence you should do. And that is a different, again, that's another module. That's another piece on the burn down list. Confirm data is good from the user, then send it to the controller, then send it to the model, then send it back to the controller with a congratulations updated, and how do you want to output it, and then you got a menu across the bottom that says I want to go back to the main menu, or I want a new record, update new record, or enter new record, or whatever. So like I said, that's where all those little bitty modules come in. And that makes your coding so much easier. So we could all work on Mark's portion of the project individually doing different things, provided we had the information of what he was going to output, his output format. So you could actually work on the model portion and the view portion at the same time as the controller portion if you knew what was being passed between the two.
Right, and with the wireframes, we essentially know what's being passed.
Right.
So I could create another wireframe with the confirm screen that has user information in it.
So 3 different people could work on the exact same piece in 3 separate pieces as part of a scrum. You know, you take a 2-day thing and hey, we've got this one done. Look at that. I did the view, you did the controller, and Cody did the model, right? And then the next time we switch it up. So I did the controller, you did the view, and well, Cody did the view and you did the model.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Or we
And that
determine,
actually counts
hey,
as our individual portions
Yeah.
as well.
right. Or you could simply do the whole thing all the way through, and your portion is to continue with the next one after the Scrum meeting to go to the next module. And see, here's the thing about Scrums, and this is what having a Scrum with so much time in between actually bogs us down, because you're not supposed to go to the next section or the next piece until you've had your Scrum and announced that you're done and get your next assignment. So until that sprint is done, you don't get another assignment. Makes sense?
Yeah.
So if you were to go to the burn down list and say, well, I finished this one in 2 hours, I got time, I'll just grab this little module here and do that, that would actually be a violation of Scrum. Now, would we care? No. But if you actually are
Yes,
adhering
we
to
can
this,
work ahead.
yeah, if you're adhering to the Scrum model, then you don't touch anything on that list. If you were given 3 days to finish something, you got 3 days to finish it. And if you did it done in 2 hours, then unless somebody reassigns something else, or unless you're giving a list to go to next, you're kind of stuck until the next sprint is done. You're not supposed to do anything more until that sprint is finished, unless you're given multiple assignments and a hierarchy of what's important.
Yeah.
Okay, so thinking then, I'm thinking with our scrums, we won't follow a true scrum. We should always have that list there
Right.
for those of us who get ambitious or whatever.
Yeah, want to
But-
make it go.
Yeah, we just want to keep working because we figured it out quickly.
Well,
I'm just
and
thinking
here's
about-
from a Scrum standpoint, let's take mine, for example, mine skills list, right? If I finish the category view, controller, and if I'm assigned the category list, controller, view, and model, right? Then once I'm finished with that, my skills list is next, right? So
Right.
simply go on to that. That's my next thing. If I'm doing the skills list, and then those 3 things on the skills list and all the modules associated with it is something that I should take care of, provided it gives me the experience I need in to prove competency in the meeting or in the course. So here's what I propose. I propose we create our own burn down objects based on our wireframes that we're working on right now and add them to a list so that next time when we start, we've got all the burn down items already in a list and we can concur or say, well, I think that needs to be broken down in a smaller piece. And then call it a
I
night.
like that idea.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good idea, at least to leave it so that we can work on it.
I guess it's an assignment that we can do during and this is our long weekend. We've got, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, well, not Sunday, but Friday, Saturday, Monday to get that accomplished. And break it down as small as you possibly can. Think about all the different components, and when you're breaking it down, once you've got that burn down list, you technically have your sequence diagram, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because your burn down list is going to make the sequences that you've got to do inside that diagram. So you'll be able to create your sequence diagram because you created a burn down list and you had to think about both, because both basically they're the same thing, right? A sequence diagram is a representation of a burn down list because each little module in there has to be is an individual piece that's coded. Same thing. Your sequence diagram is a burn down list in a sense. So if we do both our sequence list and provide a burn down list, then we should be able to come back and actually be assigned coding next week.
Yeah. I think that is a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that. Trinket.
Who is facilitating next week?
Mark.
Okay.
And who is teaching next week? Where's my list? Team meeting schedule. There we go.
Looks like you and Jason are teaching again.
Yeah, repeat.
Oh, I'm teaching
Oh.
threads, executors, runnables, and Android handlers. What is that? Why did I agree to that?
See, that's why I picked hibernation, because I had no clue what it was.
That's probably why I picked it, because I had no clue what it was.
It's a good way to learn.
Huh. Stack Overflow. What's the difference between a handler, runner, and a thread? Well, there you go. I guess I'll start there.
I just realized Jason is teaching 4 weeks or 4 classes in a row.
Yeah, I noticed that too. That's crazy.
Why did we do that to him?
I wonder if he
I don't
picked up
know.
some of Matt's
Oh, he
and just worked
did
on
that to himself, to be
Yeah,
honest.
he was talking about wanting to do more, and he just started putting his name down for
Oh,
all
he
these.
did take Matt's stuff, didn't he? Why didn't we?
Split
It's
that
down
up
at the
more.
bottom, right? We
Yeah.
still got it in the code topics. I thought we annotated that. I thought we put a little note in there whenever we changed something to what it was that we changed it from. Oh, well.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we did
I
or
did.
not.
I did when I did it. Facilitator on November 1st and 3rd, it says Matt.
Mm-hmm.
I put it in there for me. Now I need to put a note into mine. Insert note. All right, so I just inserted a note under November 10th, Gabe Naughton meeting. Gabe won't be there.
Okay.
It's my wife's birthday. Okay.
So if you're not there November 10th,
There's only 3.
maybe we
I'm going to
could
miss
have
that
Jason
list.
move his training up to November 8th. That
Could.
way you're not missing a training there, or
Cody's got a
you got
training also. Well, Cody is training on something. Where are you training on?
actually we can move both those trainings. It looks like to November 3rd or
Let's
November
see,
8th.
11, 10.
Cody is training on the HTTP URL connection, which is a retraining.
Okay.
So that's probably it. I can go back and watch the video. We're going
Okay.
back over something again, which we thought would be a
Yes.
good idea. And then Jason is giving instruction on serverless, which is a retraining also.
Oh, okay.
So no harm, no foul.
Yeah.
I still say Cody should have been the facilitator. That way it's not split. Bump Cody back 1 week and take over Mark's November 10th, and then Mark take over the 17th.
I
That
could
way
do
there's
that.
2 in a row and you don't split it up.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Okay.
And
Oh, are
I would have been happy to take 4 in a row, but you know.
I'll change it now.
okay.
There we go.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Well, the 8th and the 10th are 1 week where you have 2 different facilitators. And
Right.
that puts the 15th and 17th at 2 different facilitators as well.
Yeah, I know. But there's no facilitator on the 24th.
Right.
Yeah, that's what kind of messed it up a little bit, but I mean, that's fine. I mean,
Okay.
Thanksgiving is.
I don't really think it's going to be that big of an issue to split in the middle like that, though, if you think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, is it really going to be that big an issue to split as a facilitator in the middle?
No, I don't think
I
so.
don't think so.
Unless we're getting into some big point in the project where changing facilitator wouldn't make any sense because the facilitator is the scrum at the same time. Okay, so
Sorry, I just think, do we need to submit this schedule to Brother Tuckett?
Yes, we were supposed to submit something to him.
I just think because we're supposed to submit an individual schedule that I totally forgot about and haven't done yet.
Yeah. Did the team meeting URL get submitted to the what do you call it, also to the community board?
I'm not sure.
For
Last meeting?
I didn't. I wasn't.
It's okay. He had said every meeting that was supposed to be submitted to the community board, not the team board, the community. Everybody gets to watch these things if they want to.
Oh.
So you've got to go out there and post a short synopsis of what happened and throw it up there for each night they facilitated.
Okay. All right.
You'll find both Matt and I put one up there. So you'll find ours. There's a little bit of difference. Mine was the emails that I sent out afterwards. I just copied, pasted it. I left a little bit out of those emails because it was just personal stuff that the group didn't need to know, or the class didn't need to know.
Right.
Like when Matt shared, I left that out. But everything else I posted.
All right. Yeah, I'll have to do that.
It's just a really quick one, less than a paragraph. We worked on this tonight. Here's our assignments. Great job. Thanks, group. Done with, October 11th. And then go back and post for October 14th. We did this tonight. Everybody did a great job. Woohoo. We could have done better. Actually, I think the 11th should be, we could have done better on this. We could have done a better job of following through on our assignments.
Yeah.
Because I think all of us were at the last minute scrambling to put something in.
And so did you post the full YouTube video as well?
Yes. You post the link to the full video.
All right.
If you go back and look, you'll see the one that stands out to me the most is the one that says A-Team. They've got the A-Team. I did look up E-Team, and there's an E-Team, but they're the environmentalist team, and I'm not that person.
Nope.
Yeah, me neither.
I used to have a saying, eco-friendly or old guy. Kind of the old guy had this two connotations. I was handing out paperwork. You had the eco-friendly where it was all on one little sheet, and the type was like, 6-point. You had to look at it with glasses if you were old. Or there's that was the eco-friendly, right? Or the old guy, because the type was bigger and could be actually read, but it ended up taking 2 or 3 sheets of paper to put the same thing you put on there. So it was old guy so you could read it, but it was also old guy because it took 2 or 3 sheets of paper for the same thing that the eco-friendly guy did. Had a
Mm.
double connotation. Guess which
I
one
go with the
I picked
modern
all the
guy.
time? Do what?
I always go with the modern guy.
Do it on your phone?
You now have a digital copy. Go
Yeah.
from there. Why? Because I'm lazy to print it out.
When I was in meetings, not everybody had a tablet or a phone.
True.
When I was in meetings, tablets and phones were still not exactly mainstream. There we go, mainstream.
That's it. They were there, but they weren't accepted.
You know what? They weren't even there. Tablets weren't.
Oh, that's true.
Texting was still a new thing. And we all had those crummy old phones with a 1, 2, 3 on it that you punched for an A 3 times on the number 2 for a capital A.
Mm. Yeah, I remember my first phone back in high school.
My phone at least has a keyboard on it.
Yeah, he said high school. That was well beyond that.
Nice. How old are you, man?
43.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
How old are you?
I'm
You're going to say
26.
20, yeah, I was going to say 28 or so.
Did I have phones? Yeah, high school was still, pagers were big when I was in high school.
Yes. I had a pager in
I
high
had
school.
36.
Mm.
I had one of the first pagers in high school. I had one of the first cell phones too. Nah, I take that back. I had the second generation. I didn't have that great big brick. I bypassed the brick and went to the second generation cell phone. The one you were paying an interconnection fee of 5 cents per minute just to talk on the phone. And that was after hours when it was, quote, free.
That's right.
If you talked during the day, it was almost 60 cents a minute. That's back when you told somebody who says, "Can I put you on hold? I'm on a cell phone." Oh, well, hang on.
That's right. I remember that.
That was a common courtesy when people told you, "I'm on a cell phone." You said, "I will call you back," or they took care of it right then because everybody knew cell phones were expensive. I'm so old. All right.
Okay,
That's
so
right.
for our
Don't
next
rat
meeting,
Jason out. He's young. He's a year younger than I am. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
updating the notes here. Just updating notes. For our next meeting, we have to do our, essentially our burn down list. Right?
Based on our assigned, whatever that is, we call that up there.
On topics.
Yeah, there you go. Topic. That's a good word.
Then, which also leads to our sequence list.
Based on the burn down list.
Yeah. Then I think that's all our real assignments for next week, right? It's just those two things.
True. Now I'm going to say this though. I think to encourage us to get them done beforehand, we should put in a due date of like Monday that we email or add to the team documents so that we can review them and say we looked over them. That way we get it all done.
Yeah, it's good.
Not
too.
that I like that because I'm going to want to be doing it Monday afternoon and kicking the deadline, kicking up against the deadline. But
Yeah, so
if we put a deadline of before the meeting starts, like a day before the meeting starts, we may actually get it done because we'll feel the pressure and onus to get it done. Unlike the sequence diagrams first time around where we really all kind of screwed that one up. And put a time on there by Monday at time.
What's
You
a
want to make that
reasonable time?
whatever it is, it'll be in mountain time.
Yeah, let's see.
Do like
Let's say
9 or
9
10.
o'clock. Let's just say 9 o'clock Mountain. That's 10 o'clock our time. Right, Cody?
Yes.
8 o'clock mine, but that should be fine.
That's 10 o'clock your time. Oh, it is 8 o'clock your time.
It is 8
Is there
o'clock mine.
is
That's
there
fine.
anybody that's even Mountain Time in our group now?
Jason,
Oh, he is.
Colorado.
Okay.
That's right. He's just
You
in
want to do
Arizona,
10
so-
then? Let's do 10 so you've got 9 o'clock. Yeah, that gives us an extra hour, but I guarantee you I'm going to hopefully be in bed by then.
I only
Yes,
wish.
me too. All right. Awesome.
Okay.
So we have our assignments. Do we need? I guess we need to email. I can email that out right after this
Yeah,
meeting.
Just copy it and email it to him.
Yeah, that'd be good.
What time do we start talking about this portion? Burn down list at 6:15 Mountain Time.
6:15.
So we started an hour and 5 minutes in. We started talking about that. Just tell Jason to look at it about an hour and 5 minutes into the, give him the link. Give us all the link.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, the
tell him to
link's
look
in
an hour
there.
and 5 in. This is what we discussed. We should be doing is the burn down list, and he can, if he's not monitoring, which I didn't check to see if he was. Nope, he's out. Then just tell him to look at an hour and 5 minutes in, and we talked about the burn down list and how to create one.
All right. Sweet.
Up there, you just changed it to 5:10. I actually did do that once, but decided to put it back because we were supposed to start at 5:10, and we started at 5 o'clock. We started at 5:10. You kind of had that right. Start at 5:10 or 5 o'clock, but we started at 5:10.
Yeah, I'll say our time was 5 o'clock, and I'll put started time at 5:10.
Right. That actually
Yeah.
was pretty good.
Yeah. So we know what time we're scheduled, and what time we actually got the recording started.
Yeah.
Then.
And put in there to make sure that it upload our wireframes into the Google Drive. Did we create a? We did. Look at that. There's no files there.
Yeah, I just created the folder.
I had mine. Where'd it go? Was mine correct? Hey, should I put that output, that standard output that was there? Do you guys want that in there, or are we agreeing that that's what we'd like the data the output to look like?
What was that? I didn't catch it.
The wireframe output?
Right. On the pencil, where's pencil? Oh, come on. Seriously, I don't have that. It was the tab that showed, hang on, what was that called? It's actually called View Service Request 3. Let me rename that. All right, let me output that as a. All right, it's in the it's in the Google. I went ahead and put it in there. So I put in there the before and the after, if that makes sense. So the skills list itself, and then the output from the skills list, what we thought it should look like. Oh, you know what I forgot on that one? See that little button across the bottom's got the back arrow up and then the multi-window? On the portrait one, I forgot to put that. Or landscape one. I did portrait and landscape on that old one. I didn't put that on there. I also didn't put the title across there.
All those little things.
Yeah, I didn't even think to do like a sideways phone. I just did the up and
You just
down.
did the orientation. You know, you can force it to stay that way. You don't have to provide a second orientation,
That's true.
but most users want to see the second orientation.
Yeah, especially for typing things, I guess.
They just expect it.
Yeah.
Well, take viewing it. If you click on the individual view option, sometimes it's easier to see it in portrait mode than it is in landscape.
Yeah, that's true.
Sometimes it's easier to see in landscape than it is in portrait. So it depends on what content you're trying to provide.
And truly, if you wanted to, you don't even have to change the layout. You just add extra padding on the sides.
Right. Well, no, you do change the layout because, for example, let me share. And I'm going to go back and share. Let me share real quick. So if you look at my screen, for example, on the portrait and the landscape, if you notice, the words truncate at a certain point, right?
Oh, that's true.
But on the landscape, the words truncate way farther down.
Yeah.
So if you're looking something up, that information would be more convenient to see more information, which means having a second view. It's not the exact same view because there's more information displayed. Now,
Yeah, and I was thinking of my layout where it's just all text boxes that I'm filling in, where I could just add padding and not have those text boxes change at all.
correct, you're right there.
But I wasn't thinking about your view where it's actually displaying text, where you flip it and you actually get more data on one screen.
Right. There's less records, but there's more data on each record available.
Right.
So in this case, it could be the individual's name and then just the skills all of the skills, and then a phone number. And if you want more, you click on that individual, and then you get the full view of what, basically your output view or your input view in just output form as an individual. But having more content right here makes it more convenient to turn it on its side and scroll up. What do I care if I see 4 people at a time if I've got more content from seeing them 3 at a time?
Right. I might have the content viewed on one screen like this that I need for that person without having to actually click on the record.
Right, because if I got a phone number sitting right here, I just click on the phone number, pass it straight through, and I either get a text, it goes into that text versus the message versus call decision.
Right.
What do I want to do? And from that point, the phone takes over, and you either message them or you call them. Which I think we should force call instead of a message at first, because you don't know if they're going to put a cell phone or a home phone.
Well, I have that as my fields. I have separate fields, one for home and one for mobile phones.
True.
Do people
At
still
the
have home phones?
Yes, I still do.
My in-laws do.
Oh,
I
They're
haven't decided to
70
get rid of the
something.
home phone yet.
I dumped the home phone 7 years ago.
yep. It's changing. Oh, he's gone. He went to sleep
Lost
again.
That's kind of funny.
Yeah, he's
You got
gonna
a
get
home
back out.
phone.
He's gonna get back out and be like, "This stupid." Went to sleep again.
How long before he realizes it?
Yeah, seriously.
Yep,
Come
there
on.
he is.
There.
Really got to figure out why this thing keeps just deciding that I am going to sleep. I just clicked and shared, didn't I?
Yeah.
It's not like I wasn't active and it said, you went to sleep. Bye.
Oh,
It's not a setting anywhere in the system that I can find.
that is weird. And you have Windows 7, right?
Windows 7 Ultimate,
Hmm.
64-bit. So it's not like I've got some low-grade, old, outdated software. Well, I mean, still outdated because I'm not Windows 10 and Windows 8, but
At least it's not Vista.
oh, I
Yeah.
hated it. I never went Vista.
Yeah,
I
me
went
neither.
from 2000. I did 98. I had 95. I had 3.1. I went 95, 98, 98 SE, skipped all of that garbage in between and went to Windows 2000. Skipped all of that garbage in between from Windows 2000 to the last version of XP, and then skipped after that straight to Windows 7 Ultimate.
Yep, that's pretty good.
And threw the brakes on because I don't want 8 and I don't want 10. I'm
I don't
holding
mind 10
out for
so far.
something. I'm holding out for something better.
Yeah, 8 is pretty much just for tablets and phones anyway, so
Yeah.
Well, my in-laws have 8 on their computer and it's horrible.
It is.
unless you have a touchscreen, it's totally useless.
Yes, and they don't. So, and then Windows 10 is almost right there with it. It's just a step up from 8.
Yeah,
But I'm waiting for them to come out with a massive change of, hey, we did all this better because we took all this feedback that you didn't like us and we fixed it all, like they did with Windows 7.
yeah.
Where they took all the feedback from XP, Vista, and then their first version of 7, and they came back out and said, hey, we fixed it. Here's a better version of 7. I think what I don't like is I don't like the secondary menu that Windows 10 does. I know it's silly, but I don't like the way they do their menus. It's the upgrade from Windows 8 for the menu, but it's no better.
Yeah, they're trying to still incorporate all the 8 features, but kind of make it
Yeah.
look more like 7.
And again, if you don't have a touch screen, it's pointless. You're still having to click on an icon. What's the difference doing that and populating your entire desktop with icons? There's no difference. Give me my
There is.
menu window back.
Yeah, I don't see the draw for touchscreens on computers anyway. I mean, I understand for like a tablet, but like a desktop, you don't need
You know,
touchscreen.
I've got a touch screen at work. One of the systems we use does actually have a touch screen monitor,
Hmm.
and it is so touchy. I mean, no pun on words. If you get your finger too close, it'll select something. So if you're going to select an icon and you kind of drag your finger across the screen at it's about a 1/4 inch up, your finger will actually start tracking the mouse. And if you do any kind of a up or down of your finger as you go across, the mouse will select that item. And we've got people at work that they start at the bottom, they start they bring their finger up to tap on something at the top, and it'll select something in the middle of the screen because they got just too close. They never touched it, but they got too close.
Yeah, that's
See, I
annoying.
point at my screen all the time when I'm reading stuff or trying to stay focused, and so that just totally messed me up.
Oh, you're a fingerprint person, aren't you?
No, I don't touch the screen. That drives me crazy, but it's near the screen.
You're a fingerprint person. That's right. We've got people at work that actually draw on the screen.
Oh, it drives me crazy. If I think I need to touch the screen, I'll grab like a pencil and use the eraser. I don't like fingerprints or dirty screens. It bothers me.
They actually underline stuff on the screen.
Wow.
And I have to go back and clean the screens almost once a week because they've gotten in there, they've underlined something. My favorite is the pen. Why did you touch the screen with a pen?
Okay.
Why? Because it takes so long to clean that off without destroying the screen.
baby wipes actually work really well to clean the screen.
You still got to
I'm not
press
gonna
on
tell
the
you how I know
screen, though.
that. But you get those baby wipes. I've pulled all sorts of stuff off screens with them. And
But
then
you still
choose
got
what-
to touch the screen.
Yes, you have to touch the screen to do that.
So don't touch the screen in the first place.
That is a good rule of thumb right there.
Actually, baby wipes could be bad for the screen because if they've got alcohol in them, that could dry the screen out.
Very rarely do
Plastic.
baby wipes have alcohol in them because if the kid has a sore on their bottom, the alcohol will burn.
They
And so
changed
very
that since
rarely-
I was changing diapers in.
Yeah, I rarely see them with alcohol.
Oh, okay. Because when I was changing diapers, it was a big thing to find one that didn't have alcohol in it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they've changed it then.
Hmm.
Yeah, I learned about it because my kids found a can of a spray-on sunscreen and it ended up all over my screen,
Oh no!
Oh,
as well as markers and crayons and
that's
everything
brutal.
else. Yeah. So far, I've cleaned everything off the screen.
That's just nasty.
Welp, should we go ahead and call it, guys?
I think we probably should have called it 20 minutes ago. and
Yeah,
just
probably.
continued the conversation without recording the conversation.
Yeah, probably better to
You-
go ahead and
You
call
could
it.
go in there and lob off the last 20 minutes of this thing and probably be really okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Just put a note in there. Nothing after this point was pertinent to the course. Lob.
Yeah.
Yep.
You can actually edit these in Google, but I don't know if, or in YouTube, but I don't know if you know how. I don't remember if I remember how. It takes forever to do.
Yeah, I could probably play around with it, but I don't know.
Is it
Yeah.
worth it?
Yeah. it's
We haven't
not-
said anything. We haven't said anything disparaging yet.
No.
Wait till
Yeah,
you turn
that's
it
right.
off the recording when we're not being held accountable.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and stop it now. So.